Hope you guys are having a good morning so far. I will say it's a snowy morning where I am at. I don't know if it is where you are as well. So if it is, this is a good time. This is the best time to grab the cup of Joe, right? Nice and warm, winter, snow outside, beautiful, love it. Definitely early for the season of snow for us where I live. But I still love it. I love a good snow. Anybody else out there love snow? Anybody hate snow? Um, but anyway, thank you guys for being here. I figured, I've been doing a lot of these this week just because I'm doing it early in the morning, a little bit later today. It's snowing out, kind of got me grounded. So I'm staying at the house today doing some work. So I thought, hey, why not come online today, do another live stream? And I want to do a little bit different at the beginning here. I've been doing like news reviews and stuff like that in regards to the real estate industry. Today, I thought, what would be really handy is if we go back and we do just a quick little recap of some of the important things that kind of came out this week through the live stream. And then give you guys some actionable items that maybe you can use going into next week and for your real estate business into 2026. So I thought we'd take this week's kind of live streams, do some summary of that, talk through some of those things. Feel free to be active in the chat. But let's just hang out for a little bit, enjoy this snow day, and drink some coffee and just talk about real estate. So talk shop, right? Talking shop. So hopefully you've got a cup of coffee or tea. I know yesterday there was a Patricia in the chat there. Patricia drinks tea. So if you're here today, enjoy your tea. All right. So let's talk kind of about this week, this past week, and all the information we went through, because I will say it was absolutely packed with a lot of just different shifts kind of going on, a lot of speculations, a lot of projections. And so today I want to talk kind of about, I mentioned the 50-year mortgage and how it's kind of, to be honest, to summarize that, is like a bad math problem. It's like a really bad math problem. There's also was like an interesting win in the Florida market in regards to buyer broker commissions and what that means. And then kind of one of kind of the weirdest, if I was to summarize kind of the economy and what's going on in the real estate industry, it's almost like this weird like standoff between buyers and sellers that we haven't seen kind of probably, to be honest, like in a decade. So anyway, if you are a real estate pro or even in a consumer looking to buy or sell, these are some things that I would say would be helpful for you to know navigating into 2026. We'll talk about some forecasts as well today. And I'll probably do some news article as well. I was reading through some articles that I think would be helpful. I've actually got two articles later that I will talk about that is very much specific in actually helping agents do certain things in their industry. So it's not going to be so much news related. They're more of an agent to agent help aids. The two titles of those headlines, just so you know, towards the end of this live stream, we'll go into this. I'll be looking forward to this. This is Agents, You Must Believe in Yourself and the Brand You Choose. That's one of the headlines. And the other one is, it is called The 5 C's for Making Powerful Marketing Videos. These are two things I think sometimes gets us in our minds and we get distracted about things that we do, especially video. I think a lot of people are hesitant to do video. They don't like being in front of cameras. They feel like it's awkward, those type of things. And I get it. I do think though, there's less of that now than there has been. I think when we went through COVID, there was a shift where we got way more comfortable sitting in front of our laptops with a camera on or our phones and being visible through a screen. So I say lean into that kind of marketing going into 2026. It's ramping up. A lot of AI is coming into play to make that a whole lot easier and adoption a whole lot easier for you to implement that into your marketing strategies. So with all that being said, let's kind of go back and just do a recap kind of on this week, right? So let's talk about the economic reality check, right? Let's go into like, what is the economy? What is going on? What kind of forecasts are we talking about? So first, let's look at the money. Headlines are absolutely been buzzing about a 50-year mortgage idea, right? And it's kind of, Trump kind of mentioned this. So here's what I'm going to say. First and foremost, this is not even a product that can be offered. To summarize it, you can't even offer this product. It was just mentioned. It's something that's being talked about and discussed. And every time something's mentioned in the news, it kind of goes crazy from there, right? And something like a 50-year mortgage is one of those topics. At some point, I might have a mortgage lender come on here, and we might talk through these type of statements and what this could mean, and kind of, hash it out through a lender's perspective. But today, here is what I'm calling. I'm saying this now. To be honest, I don't see this working. Sure, I do understand that the monthly payments will drop slightly, as far as what the outgo per month for those mortgages would be. But here's the thing, you are nearly doubling your total interest paid on that same loan. So what does that do? Well, it front loads interest and kills equity building, right? So that's the risk of a 50-year loan. So if the market ever shifts, you've got a problem because you don't have much equity in those homes. So that's the risk. So here's where I would say the alternative to that kind of conversation, what I would say for you guys to kind of use. So instead of like going down the road of like 50-year and locking people into debt for, let's be honest, half a century, right? 50 years, half a century. We need to be more creative, looking at equity lines of credit, like HELOCs and things like that, for those that are actually needing cash. And then focus really more in to what 2026 looks like as far as the forecast goes. Because there's a lot to be able to free up money in the market, there's a lot of equity in homes. So maybe there's ways that we can maneuver this instead of refinancing and going into 50-year mortgages to reduce payments and that kind of stuff. Maybe there's some investing they can do to bring in more money, those type of things. I would say let's get really good at understanding the equity that people have and not talk so much about increasing the amount of years that they're in debt. That would be my my position on this. I'm not a fan of the 50-year mortgage overall. I do think maybe there's some use cases there that maybe could be helpful for certain situations, but overall, I see the risk in this, and I don't like the risk of this. I don't like that long term of debt. I do not like that. But here's some good news in regards to this whole topic that we're talking about, especially if we kind of get into like the market coming into 2026, right? So even though we're touting and talking about 50-year mortgages, the reality is that's a conversational type topic you can have with people that could lead into talking about the market as a whole. So instead of the person being so worried about what their monthly payments are and what their income is, I would lean more into what the experts are saying, like NAR, National Association of Realtors, and many others are predicting that 2026 will be the most balanced market since the pandemic. So, and what they're saying is the rates are going to be settling right around that low 6% range. So, and remember what we talked about this week too, we have roughly 5.5 million rate qualified buyers waiting in the wings for this kind of tipping point in this balance to occur. So I will say this, and obviously there's many factors that could change this, but the recovery, to be honest, is kind of coming. It's coming in a different way, not in a crazy speed and crazy adjustments, but there is kind of more of this balancing taking place. But we have to be able to survive the current affordability crisis, right? And so right now, so there's still this gap here that's happening. It's not balance is not happening, but it's coming. There is something coming. But now there is still this crisis. If we went back to a couple of the articles we read about today, where we have about 75% of the homes are out of reach for the average earner. So we still have a high percentage. Now that's a percentage based on a national average. Remember, everything's kind of local, but when we start seeing large percentages like that, we still see a little bit of an imbalance. But going into 2026, this is where the experts are leaning into saying that there's more of a balancing coming. Income is kind of rising, inflation has cooled, so there could be a more equilibrium going to get ready to take place in the market. So if that happens, then I think you're in for a good market. So when you start having these conversations about a 50-year mortgage, maybe it's not so much that as much as the 30 with your income has potential to rise and home prices are not inflating month over month like they have been. So in time, homes will become more affordable for people, right? Now, let's talk about kind of this weird stalemate that I mentioned just a minute ago about buyer seller and the psychology and the strategy of this, because we're kind of in a weird place in this market right now. So, and we talked about this multiple times this week, all right? But here's the paradox that we saw, okay? The market is beginning to shift towards buyers, right? We see that. The market, the homes are kind of coming down. There's more incentives that sellers are now offering buyers to buy their home, yet buyers aren't buying. And we are starting to see in some markets, sellers are flat out quitting selling their properties. So, kind of a weird place, right? So, it's changing a little bit on the buyer market. It is shifting toward more favorable to the buyer with those incentives, but yet the sellers are not necessarily selling their houses as quick or putting them on the market. So, there's this weird paradox taking place. So, how does this correlate going into 2026? Now, what I will say is there's a buyer opportunity here. All right. Buyers have the best negotiating power probably in the past 5, maybe even 10 years. All right. What do I mean? If you have clients on the fence, tell them this: they need to marry the house, date the rate, right? Marry the house. I need a house for my family. I'm going to date the rate. At any point, I can break up with that rate, right? I can refinance. I can put some money into my house and increase my equity. I have leverage in that. And when given the way the market is, where the inflation has cooled, sellers are becoming more and more understanding about this price gap. And so you're seeing that reflected in what homes are coming on the market priced at, right? So this is where that buyer opportunity rests. Are we there yet? Not necessarily. Are we headed that way? I think I can make the argument and say we are, especially after looking through all the articles this week, right? So now the seller problem is still very, very present, right? Sellers are being stubborn. They are being stubborn. They're kind of holding on to their price value. So you are seeing these delistings and that are kind of surging in some mainly metro areas, but still trickling out into the more rural parts as well. This is because sellers would rather pull their home off the market than drop the price, right? So that's the argument. So at some point, though, equilibrium begins to take place as the market puts pressure on the sellers that do need to move. And therefore, they start putting their homes on the market. So that's kind of what's happening. So what would I say is kind of the pivot here? You need to, what I would say is go back and look at the NAR 2025 buyer and seller profiles. You can go pull that report up on nar.com/reports, I believe. And inside of there, you will see the profiles for their 2025. Inside of there, what you can find is the median buyer age, which is sitting right around the 59-year mark. Fluctuates a little bit depending on the market, but right around the 59 is the sweet spot. So what I would say, if you're going to pivot and try to figure out how to market in this industry, you're going to stop marketing exclusively to those 25-year-old first-time buyers. They're all over TikTok and Instagram, and nothing against them, but they don't have cash. They don't have money. The money right now is with the baby boomers who have equity and cash. So I would pivot my marketing strategies to them. Okay, so that would be my advice in regards to the summary of this week's article as far as the market's concerned. Now, let's jump into a conversation about some of the legal battles, industry changes that we have seen, right? We talked this week about Zillow, commissions, contracts, those type of things. So let's get into some of this legal stuff. Now, obviously, I am not an attorney. I'm not giving legal advice. I am reporting kind of what I'm reading in the news. I will not give verdicts on where this stuff will go, but it is very important for us as real estate professionals to be on point with what is being talked about in the news in regards to things that ultimately do affect us and the consumer, right? It's very important that we stay on point with these things. So let's get into a little bit of these things. All right, this first one that I want to bring back up is talking about the Florida firm that was granted the $25,000 commission after the buyer breached their exclusive buyer broker agreement. All right. What I would say for the first time reading through that article, this is proof that buyer broker agreements do work to protect the agent's commission, right? That's what we're seeing here. If you are not using them, even though you should be using them, and if you're a realtor are required to use those, realize that if you don't utilize these buyer broker agreements and you don't get it in writing, you are basically working for free, and there's no way to fight for your commission if a buyer decides to walk, right? So, and this is also a good conversation for that buyer broker consultations. understanding and articulating to the buyer the value that you give them is very, very crucial for this even to be enforced. And also, it's an agreement between two parties, so each person is being held accountable to delivering some kind of service back to each other, right? So by having an agreement in writing, you're protecting your commission. It doesn't negate that you have to serve them well with all the fiduciary responsibilities that comes with being a real estate agent and ultimately a realtor, including the code of ethics. One day I will go through this on the live stream. We'll go do a whole big deep dive on code of ethics. I think it's very, very important to really hone in on those things. All right. Another one we talked about this week was Zillow versus the industry, more specifically like Compass. So we'll talk about Zillow and Compass. Right now, there's a major ruling, and it comes down to like listing access standards. And this is where basically Zillow is being accused, or Zillow had put up a wall that basically says if you do not put your property and it stays private listing and you go to put it back on the market, we will not syndicate it onto our sites and sister sites for that property, thereby probably limiting the competitive nature of being able to market sellers' homes. Compass is arguing that if they decided to do that it would limit the options for the consumer, the seller, that might be beneficial to them. So there's two arguments going on. The Compass is arguing that it is, seller may not want their home listed on the MLS or listed on, Zillow for a time being, because they might not want people to know that their home is on the market. Zillow is saying that hurts the consumer by not putting all data out there for the consumer to be aware about what's going on the market, ultimately skewing data and not being as accurate on what is currently on the market. So that's the two opposing arguments here. So my advice in regards to reading articles like this is not to form an opinion necessarily against one or the other. It is to pay attention, listen, but here's where my advice would come in. Because of the way these portals work, and as way as any kind of company works, you never put all your eggs in one basket. Do not rely on just one particular portal for every single type of business that you do, right? Because I would say there's an argument to be had on both sides of the aisle here. I think both have an argument to be made, and that will be decided in the courts. But what I would say is you don't just put all your eggs into Zillow and say, wow, Zillow's just my best friend and they're going to do everything for me and they're just amazing. They give me all my leads. They help me build a business, these type of things. I don't think that is the right way to do business. You need to make sure that if you're diversifying your marketing, that you have a much broader scope of where your leads come from and not just in one direction, right? So read through these type of things and realize who's ultimately controlling your business, you or the portal that you have basically just poured all of your money back into. Because all it takes is one little change and everything crumbles around your business. So you definitely need to be focusing more on a referral type business, right? All right, let's talk about fraud. We talked about some scams that are going on, hijacking listings, getting titles and deeds. All those type of things are happening all across the board. What I would say is this: educate your sellers and make sure they check their county records. There are new laws that are being passed in multiple states like Texas and Connecticut that is helping to protect homeowners and buyers. But here's the thing: you are truly the first line of defense against a lot of these scams. And that means being very diligent and looking at every document you receive, scrutinizing every email, and being very diligent in understanding what the scams are. I will say there's a lot of CE classes that you guys can take that talks about fraud and scams and what these type of things look like. I encourage you to do this because as AI gets better, so does the deception, because it can get very, very good even with the use of AI. So realize, be informed, be observant, and make sure you're keeping very much clarity on what is all going out, right? All right. Let's go into talking about the future of housing and AI construction, kind of summarize some of those topics today that I talked about this week as well. So where are we going as an industry when it comes to AI, construction, all of those type of things, right? There's a lot of different conversations going on out there. You can just do a simple Google search for AI in real estate. You will see so many articles about this. Do a search for modern construction ideas, and you'll notice a lot of these as well. So what are we talking about? Well, it might have been yesterday, but I went over how Walmart and a 3D printing, concrete printing company have teamed up, and they've built a Walmart, and they're building multiple more buildings, which is it's basically like 50% less of the work, or 50% faster, and also has less waste. So this is something to kind of just pay attention to. Like it might not be in your market yet, but it wasn't just a couple years ago that we were hearing about 3D printing of buildings and residential properties, right? So we've already now had a major brand, Walmart, have a building completely 3D printed. That's fascinating, right? So this is a very fast progressing way of construction. So we'll see how this goes. What I would say is just be listening, pay attention to what's going on, and be on the cutting edge of this. Now, as far as AI, versus what I would say is human, right? So we got like AI on one side and we got humans on the other. So what I would say is there is a lot of adoption going on with AI that is not even, you're not even aware that it's happening. There's things that we went over that where it helps you with scheduling and showing properties. It does a lot of the back end things, all those type of things, right? What I will say is this: read the room though, and put yourself in the position of a consumer, and tell me if some of the interactions you're getting through email and things like that is like being like a sales robot. Like, does it sound human to you? So what I would say is use AI to schedule things like showings and those type of stuff, but use your humanity to close the deal, right? We need to be in a consultative. We talked about this, a consultative type selling environment, not just a transactional one. And what I've noticed is AI is very transactional. It's focused, one direction in making a sale, and it doesn't have that human element in it. And I don't think AI, it can mimic it a lot, but it's not going to ever beat that face-to-face interaction with people, right? So I would say, like, logistics, like the logistics of your business is very much where AI can help, getting into the weeds of like what it takes to be a good agent, those logistics. But the human element, anytime it's something very important where you're truly helping somebody, connecting with somebody, what I would say is that's the engagement where AI doesn't really have a place. It needs to be human, right? That's what I would say. All right, that's the summary. There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of conflicting headlines, a lot of confusion. So here's the thing, your job as a real estate agent and realtor is to be the filter. And then as you're filtering and reading this kind of information, it's looking for the opportunity in this news to be able to pour and focus where your marketing dollars are spent, how you engage with consumers, how you navigate this market. So to summarize, I would say focus on boomers, get your contracts signed like buyer broker agreements, and keep your clients safe from bad mortgage products and fraud, and serve them well, and don't lean so much into AI that it gets completely fake and you lose the human element, right? So there you go. That's a summary of kind of what we talked about this week. I hope you find that helpful. Let me know in the chat if you did. I do appreciate you guys being here. All right. So let's jump into just some articles here to wrap up this week. Just to kind of give you guys, I've got two that's going to be talking about some news, and then I've got two that's going to help you guys as real estate agents, right? All right. So let's share my screen here. There we go. This first one is by CBS News. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can read that a little better. It says the Fed just cut rates to their lowest point since 2022. Here's what that could mean for mortgage rates. We talked about this yesterday a little bit. Just because the Fed cuts rates does not correlate to a mortgage rate deduction. Okay. And I'm pretty sure that's what this article is going to get into. We may receive commissions from some links to, it's a promotional thing. All right. The Federal Reserve delivered big financial news this week, announcing yet another interest rate cut, its third in just 4 months. With this latest rate cut, the Fed has sliced another 25 basis points off the benchmark rate and has officially pushed the federal funds rate down to a range of 3.5 to 3.75. That in turn marks a meaningful milestone, the lowest federal funds rate since November of 2022, and a potential opening for more accessible, affordable borrowing options for millions of Americans. All right, so what we need to pay attention here is what is the more accessible, affordable borrowing options, right? So Fed rate affects like car loans, credit cards, small short loans, those type of things. That's where that interest rate is affected, right? So that's where that accessible, affordable borrowing options comes from. While each of the recent rate reductions has slowly chipped away at borrowing costs, from credit cards to personal loans to auto financing, there you go, this latest move is a bit different. With the benchmark rate now at levels last seen before the most aggressive tightening cycles in decades, the broader lending environment is poised to feel the ripple effects. And for the millions of potential homebuyers looking for affordable mortgage loans, our current homeowners hoping to refinance, this shift could be particularly important. What exactly does this latest Fed rate mean for mortgage rates, though? Below, we'll detail what you should know before making any mortgage related moves. This is helpful for us as real estate agents as we look at this to see how do we take this kind of information and articulate it in a way that is helpful to our consumers, right? And help cut through some of this confusion. Hey, Michelle, good to see you here. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad you could make it. Enjoy the snow if you have any. I think you do. I think this might be the second, third time you've had it. So welcome to winter. All right, what the December Fed rate cut could mean for mortgage rates. The first thing potential borrowers should know is that mortgage rates don't respond directly. We talk about this all the time. I'm going to keep reiterating this because it's so confusing to a lot of people. The federal funds rate influences short-term borrowing, meaning things like credit cards, personal loans, and some home equity lines of credit, which are called HELOCs. But long-term fixed mortgage rates are tethered to other factors like investor expectations, inflation outlook, that's a big factor in it, and the movement of the 10-year Treasury yield. So when they're looking at the mortgage rates and what they're going to be doing in response to the Fed rate, they're looking at those other factors to determine if they should do this. Michelle says, snow day here, no school, break out the sleds. Hey, let's do it. Bring out the sleds. Yes. It's early in the season for us here where we live to get snow, but I do like a good snow. Michelle, enjoy your snow day. I love sledding. A little bunny trail, but I broke a rib once sledding. I let my kids talk me into taking a sled off of a jump. It broke my rib. No joke. So funny. The things we do. That's important because when a Fed rate cut is widely expected, the announcement itself doesn't usually spark an immediate dramatic move in mortgage rates. And markets have been expecting another 25 basis point reduction for several weeks now. And this is the thing, meaning that the majority of mortgage lenders have likely already adjusted their rate sheets. Yeah, if we go back a week or two ago, you see where the mortgage rate sheets already adjusted. So if we go to mortgage, matter of fact, we can go to, Mortgage News Daily. Oh, there it is. Sorry. There we go. If we go here and we look, you can see what the rate is. So 6.26 down 0.04. And you can see the historical. If I think we click on this, I think is where we see it. You see the 30-year fixed is sitting around 6.26 right now. 15 is 5.76. Your average monthly payment is right around 1541. Then you got your ARMs, FHA. See, FHA, this is killer right here. FHA is hovering around 5.88. That's awesome. And then the VA, 5.9, under 6%, guys. They need to be buying. Buy. But yeah, there you go. Use that site. That's mortgagenewsdaily.com. They also have a really cool app that is extremely helpful. Look at that daily. All right. Still, the environment surrounding the decision matters. A lower federal funds rate often signals that the Fed sees inflation cooling and economic risk moderating, both of which tend to put downward pressure on longer-term yields. And if investors believe the Fed is comfortable continuing its easing cycle in 2026, that sentiment alone could help nudge mortgage rates to fall lower, though any shift is likely to be gradual rather than sharp. Yeah, That's the thing. It's nothing crazy, guys. They're still trying to balance the market. I'm not going to harp on this too much longer here. We've kind of beat the interest rate thing to death this year or this week. So you guys get it. You understand the argument. But what I wanted to kind of just point out here is just a few things. Is managing like these rate expectations, right? Oh, hey, Stephanie, good you're here. Plenty of snow in Ashland, lazy day. All right, enjoy that lazy day, Stephanie. Have fun. And do what Michelle just did. Go out and sled. Just don't break any ribs. Don't do anything crazy, but do break out the sleds. It is fun. Take advantage of it. Be young, be youthful. All right. So back to what I was saying. So what I would say is this: manage like rate expectations and clarify that the Fed cuts do not directly or instantly drop fixed mortgage rates. That's tied more to the 10-year Treasury yield, right? And kind of what inflation looks like. Those are the factors that really matter more in the mortgage rate discussion, right? Not the Fed rate. Does the Fed rate have a factor? Oh, absolutely. When Powell, the chief Fed, makes statements at a press conference, it can ultimately dictate an economy. There's a lot of power in that position, right? But we as agents need to be very familiar with what this data means and how we use it, right? So let's make sure we manage the expectations. What I would then say is using this kind of knowledge is I would go back to, because sometimes it's not so much about trying to make a sale or get a property listed. Sometimes it's just offering a service to build a referral business where you offer value back to previous clients or even people that are on the fence about listing and talking to them about their refinancing options. If they have bought in the past couple years with these rates dropping like they have, they should go talk to a lender about a refi. If they bought 2023 or early 2024, realizing that these rates now that we were at could save them significant amount of money month over month. So pick up the phone and call your past clients and talk to them about their mortgages and just put a bug in their ear. Just call a lender and talk to them about a refi. Trust me, they'll appreciate that call. And they will talk about you to others that will maybe be looking to buy or sell. So play the long-term game. All right. What I would also do though is if somebody is looking at getting into the market to buy, make sure that you have a list of very good lenders out there, but also advise every single buyer to get multiple quotes from multiple lenders because competition is increasing. And this falling rate, I'm going to be careful to say this falling rate environment, but if I say this falling rate environment, don't take that as in it's an environment of all these falling rates. What I am saying though is there's this little trickling down of rates is worth the conversation to say, hey, borrower, hey, buyer, go talk to multiple lenders and see what's out there and what banks can offer you, right? It's good sound advice. It's just simple. It's a good idea. Just you go out to do anything, to use any kind of service, shop around, ask questions. All right, let's go into another article here. This one here is interactive. And I just found this one. I've not had time to deep dive into how this interactive market view works on Inman. But Inman News, I really like. It is a pay to play service for news. It's not necessarily the cheapest thing, but I will say it's very helpful. There's a lot of good articles. They have a lot of contributors. They lean heavily on data. So I do like Inman for that. They cite their sources where they get their information. They do a great job reporting the news. And I've noticed that most of it is not in a bias leaning. It tends just to deliver the facts. So if I was to recommend a site for real estate news, I would recommend Inman. I would absolutely do that. I think they have a lot of helpful things. All right. Real estate's great rebalancing. That's the right terminology. Again, kudos to Inman. That's what you need to say. Rebalancing has entered a new chapter, one in which this summer's biggest inventory engines have become a drag on active listing growth in the fall. I love that terminology, not crash, right? This is Inman Market View Interactive. Let's read the article just briefly, and then we'll get into the interactive nature of this, and I'll share this. But this looks like a really, really helpful site. Matter of fact, I might be able, let me just try something here. If I post this here, can you guys get to that? Let me know in the comments if that link came through and you're able to click it and it leads to this. Remind you though, you have to pay Inman to have access to certain articles. Sometimes you get a few free, but that link right there will take you to where I just went. Let me know in the comments if that link worked for you guys. All right, it's too early to herald the end of real estate's great rebalancing, but for now, at least, the fast-paced growth in active listings that real estate professionals became accustomed to in this depressed transaction environment has ground to a halt. And peering deep into the data, a clear culprit emerges. Using newly released data from Realtor.com, the interactive Inman Market View tools below provide a detailed look at how Western markets drove the nation's summer inventory boost. Before that boost then slowed down in the fall. In the spring market, active listing inventory nationwide was still growing at an annual rate of 30%. But the fall season that just closed, the number of active listings on the market was only 15% higher than the same time the year before. As the number of homes on the market appears to cap out for now, it remains 13% below pre-pandemic norms. With Inman's interactive maps and charts below, you can explore how your market's standing inventory pool has changed over time. So here is the tool. This is the tool that they have here, and that's what that link does. This view shows the monthly number of active listings on the market during the most recent 3-month period compared to a pre-pandemic normal for that time of year. All right, so you'll see here, there's a quick just overview that defaults to some kind of standard here. And we have down 50% or more is the dark red as far as active listings go. So that's the Chicago area. It's interactive. So we can zoom in on the East Coast here. You can see areas that are the largest decrease. So this might be the Dublin area. Yeah, so you can kind of see where decreases have taken place. But if we come up here, we can zone in a little bit, like, right? We can go into, let's do Denver, right? So now we can see where prices are at, like active listings, right? So you can kind of see the benefit of a quick report like this, right? As a real estate agent, helpful, right? Very cool. All right, click into one of the 500 local markets in the tool above, or search for an option from the drop-down menu for an even more detailed look at the data. Select different metrics and time period comparisons for a fuller picture. Yeah, so if we go up here, back up here, we can select that area. We can select the metrics. We can say new listings, listing overflow, outflow volume, days on market, those type of things. We can select different time periods. Very helpful. From engine to anchor, the map tool above allows easy comparisons of recent data to the fall season in 17 and 19, or to the same period 12 months ago. But with the chart below, you can take an even closer look at more recent trends for hundreds of markets across the US. It's loaded up front with 3 of the biggest drivers of the fall 2025 inventory slowdown: San Francisco, Seattle, and Denver. Select your market to see how its path compares. So you can select the market, it's preloaded with these. You can then select the metric that you want to see. And then you can select the date, and then you can see what's happened, and you see the graph, right? So there's the US National is this. So the active listings has dipped in 2021 to 2022. It's gradually increased a little bit over the past 3 years or 2 years, right? So a little bit of an uptick. So great little quick little insight that should be a little helpful little tool for you guys. So what I would say though is, like, just kind of skimming over this a little bit, just even with their initial statement there where they mentioned the regions that had stalled, and a little bit of these type of markets that, you know, had a high, you know, listing activity and it's tanked. Let's drill down more into like what I keep saying, like hyper local inventory data. National trends are helpful as far as, you know, just a general overview of maybe where the market is heading overall, but inventories and struggles are very, very regional at best. So if you want to utilize data effectively, look broad. That's good. You can kind of see trends over time and know that if certain trends happen in a bigger city and you're in more of a rural area, that over the next couple years, you can see a trend maybe possibly leading that way. But again, more factors are factored in, like, you know, how many job starts are happening in your area, more industry coming in, those type of factors are also. So again, hyper local. Get into your local MLS data and get familiar with how many active listings, you know, what is the average selling price, days on market. take this report, look at it nationally, see what metrics they're using, and then go hyper local with it. And then draft social media post using AI or Canva to create graphics that address your local market. Post that out everywhere and become the source of the information with what's going on locally. You can even do a contrasting image, right? And I love contrasting marketing. And what do I mean by contrasting marketing? So this is where like national, like if you're in a more rural area that is having a different outcome than what the negative of a big city is, and you can make a correlation that most of the people that are moving into your area are from this area, and this one area, this national area, this big city that people are moving from has a decrease and a drop down in the market and is having more of a struggle, and your market is actually the opposite, having success. What an interesting contrasting marketing piece that would be. Think about it. Think about the headline, right? I could simply say something like, although this big city is struggling, many people are moving to our town. And here's the data to prove it, right? You just build hype for your own community. You talked about actual data and you reference it. That's contrasting marketing. I think it's a very cool way to kind of get excitement and still maintain the truth there. All right. So, what I would also say is you probably should be targeting buyers in certain parts of the South and West where delisting and stuff like that's happening, and talk to them more about, and we talked about this week, is going outside of the metro area and going into more of the rural parts of the city and saving some money, and maybe there's more opportunity there. So if you are in those areas, that would be my advice as far as kind of navigating through that. All right. We are going to now jump into the actual helpful articles talking about more directly to you as agents. Like, what is some practical things we can help with you guys to get equipped in your business, to be better at your business, and some tools, resources, thoughts, that kind of stuff. So this is discussion time, guys. As I go through these next two articles, throw it in there, throw in comments. If you got suggestions or things that you do, throw it in here. Let's have a discussion, right? If not, no worries. I'll keep talking, but I'm monitoring that chat. So if you throw some questions in there or ideas, I will talk about them. So let's go into this. This next one, again, I'm leaning back onto Inman. This is where Inman has just a huge amount of advantage benefits towards for real estate agents. It's not like a sales rep for them. I am not. There's no affiliate linking going on. I like their content. I think what they deliver is pretty good. Now, again, you have to read it through the lens and use critical thinking skills, but still, I think overall it's really good. But they have news and headlines and those type of things, but they also have a lot of helpful articles in regards to real estate agents, how to run your business. And this is no different. All right. So this title of this article is Agents, You Must Believe in Yourself and the Brand You Choose. To get buyers to believe in you, you must first believe in yourself, your value, and the organization you represent. Broker owner Lori Muller writes. Now, on the very surface, right, I don't get into the whole idea of like, just believe in yourself and this feel-good emotional type stuff. But I think there's an element here where a lot of times when you're doing something that we do, like getting in front of clients, there's an insecurity factor there. And we don't sometimes believe that we can handle what we're getting ready to get into. And we do need to believe that we are trained and equipped to be able to handle the situation we're getting ready to be into. And I think that is a good self-talk. I think realizing that you're trained, especially if you've been in this industry for a long time, you know how to do your job. And some of that self-talk does help because there are situations that you've never been in where you need that kind of self-talk to say, you know what, I've been here, I can probably overcome this. And if I can't, as a true professional, I'm going to rest that I have a team behind me that I can call, that's got my back, that can help and give me answers when I need them. And that brings more confidence. So that's the correlation I would say that this article, this particular Lori Muller is writing about, because you see the two statements she makes, right? Believe in yourself and believe in your brand and the company. So those two things go in tandem together. And it's really difficult to be a successful agent when you don't have those two things working for you. But a lot of times, guys, and this is a warning, a lot of times we can nitpick ourselves and the brokerage we're at. Sometimes we get so critical that we become our own problem. We get in our own way, that we're criticizing all the little things about the brokerage and negating where we've got to work on ourselves. And that's that balancing act. The brokerage does not fix every single problem that every single agent has. They can't do that. No broker can do that. But a good broker is aware of issues and is making changes and working through problems. But that doesn't negate that the agent themselves have to align with that brokerage and trust that brokerage as well and support that brokerage. So that's why who you affiliate with truly does matter. It matters who's got your back, who's supporting you. And then at the same time, what do you do in response to that support? How do you communicate? How do you help build teams inside of that brokerage? What do you do? Do you divide or do you bring and bridge gaps? Which one are you? Are you a divider or a gap builder? Right? That's what we want to be. We want to strengthen the brands we're at. We want to work on ourselves and be confident. Let's get into the article. In every market cycle, one truth remains constant: belief determines outcomes. Before a client believes in you, before your team believes in you, before your brand believes in you, you must believe in yourself, your value, and the organization you represent. So she's written a book. It's called Born to Sell. Not read it. Can't recommend it, but maybe I'll read it. If anybody's read it, let me know. In my book, Born to Sell, I write that success begins with the belief in three places: yourself, your product, and your company. Okay, so let's talk. Yourself. If you know that you've got a license, you know how to do your job, you've been trained, then you should believe in yourself. You should believe that I can do the thing that I'm being challenged to do. If you believe, and it's very easy for a real estate agent, I think, to believe in the product you sell, right? If you believe that two things, that homeownership is important, right? I think that's the easy one. But do you believe that a real estate agent is just as important in that transaction as just the product? Or do you find yourself thinking, well, I'm just a salesperson? Or are you like the advocate, the protector, the person that looks out for your clients, and you have the utmost value? Because I will say, especially in the past few years, society and our culture has put a lot of pressure, making it almost appear as if what you earn for your work doesn't deliver the value that they need, right? That was been the whole argument with all this legislation and lawsuits and everything else. And do you believe in the product and that being yourself and what you deliver and the value of a realtor? And then ultimately, do you align with the company you're with? Do you believe in what that company stands for? Do you believe in that brand? Can you get behind that brand, right? This principle guided me long before I ever stepped into real estate, but it became the heartbeat of my career the day I walked into the industry as a single mom with one small toddler on my hip and a determination to build a better life. Belief in yourself, the first sale you ever make. When I entered real estate, I wasn't just building a business. I was building a future for my daughter. There was no fallback plan. Notice she had no options, right? She had to make this work. She didn't have any spare time, no excess resources. What I did have was belief that if I put in the work, right, the skills and the habits and the discipline, I could create something extraordinary. What did she put in? Work. It doesn't come easy. You then develop your skills. You got to constantly be working on those things, taking your work ethic and your skills, and then developing very crucial habits that are replicatable. And then once you figure out those three systems, what do? You're disciplined to fulfill those things, right? So I made myself a promise. For the first 3 years, I would show up every single day like a woman on a mission. And I did. All right. Those 3 years of consistency taught me, I like this word, consistency, that wins the game, taught me that belief is built through preparation, mastery, and the willingness to do the work others avoid. That's very true. I learned how to ask the right questions, how to uncover needs, how to guide conversations, and how to show up with quiet confidence, not arrogance, but certainty. I was a student of the industry. Always a student. Always be a student. Always be a student. Right? A student of people and a student of leadership long before I ever carried the title. Self-belief isn't something you're given, it's something you earn. And every late night, every start again tomorrow, every moment I doubted myself, but still chose to show up, made me stronger, more resourceful, and more confident. So here's the thing though, is a lot of times, you know what a stumbling block is to this? A stumbling block is when you start blaming other people. When you start making comments that I don't get because of, you are negating your own discipline, your own showing up, your own confidence. You're putting your position in arrogance. I have it figured out. I am the one that knows how to do everything. It's all on me. It's everybody else that's causing my lack of success. It's everybody else that's causing me to fail. It has everything to do with everybody else and not me. And then I'm no longer a student. If I go around constantly being the person that is telling everybody else how to do things, I challenge you to self-reflect a little bit, because you're limiting your own growth by doing so. I sit here on this side, obviously teaching, right? I'm teaching, but am I? I'm listening and reading this and being reminded myself of these things. These are things that I can fall into myself. So as I read this and I dissect this and I tell you guys this, I'm not sitting here trying to say I have it figured out. I don't take the position of that. I take this as I'm going to deliver what's popping in my head and rambling it off to you. And at the same time, I'm digesting this and saying, man, am I listening enough? Am I asking enough questions? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing as well? So I challenge you to be the same way. And again, I said this last time, more often we need to be reminded than we need to be taught. So you might even be in a position where you think you know how to do everything. But guess what? As we get busy and we start doing things, we forget how to do those things extremely well. So sometimes submitting ourselves back to being a student in things that we've been taught before could be some of the best practices. Because what I've noticed is as we develop in our careers, we lose focus of the things that actually make money, that help us represent clients well, and we begin to implement all these different tools and systems. We become more like robots, and then we get really relaxed on what actually makes us human and relatable and connecting with people and ultimately helpful. And that's being a student and being okay with staying a student. All right, that was my soapbox. Jessica, yeah, the last saying I want to be called is a salesperson. Yes. Well said, Jessica. So on that note, Jessica, I'll lean into that just a little bit. The contrasting difference and against real estate agents and realtors, and Jessica, I really thank you for saying this, is the contrasting difference between real estate agents and salespeople. Salespeople, right? I used this analogy last time, right? This pen in my left hand represents one car lot. This pen in this other hand represents another car lot. Both of these pins represent a Honda Accord. It is black with chrome. Okay, following me? Now, how do I get a buyer to buy one of these pins? I'm a salesperson here and I'm a salesperson here. What's the same? The product. The product is the same. There's no difference between these two pins or these two cars, mind you, right? They're exactly the same. So now I'm persuading the buyer through price, through features, through benefits, through service, whatever it is, to buy my Honda Accord over this Honda Accord, right? Now, I switch. What's the difference? This represents a house. This represents a house. You follow me. Very simple analogy, right? This is a more typical standard days on the market, average selling price home right here. And this home has a little bit more features in it, right? Liquid ink, it's a fountain pen, right? But it's different. It's not the same, but yet used for the same purpose. I write with both of these, or I live in both of these, right? What is the role of a real estate agent? It's not to oversell this house over this house. These two things are going to appeal to a particular buyer. Our job is we are presenting these two things to them, helping them navigate the differences between the two. This one has gel ink, dries fast, runs out of ink extremely fast, can be super expensive to maintain. This one is refillable with ink by buying it in bulk, and I can just shoot an ink injection in there and it lasts a long time. So it's cheaper, but the upfront cost is more, right? So what am I talking about? Well, I'm asking the person when I'm working through this scenario, what their needs and wants are. I'm now navigating a very complex situation here, trying to figure out their wants and their needs. And then in real estate, we go to the next level of now they've decided to buy this more complex pen. They have it inspected, they have to get underwriting done, and I'm involved in the entire thing of the process. You get the idea, right? They're very different. We're not salespeople. We are navigating a very complex situation to help people get to closing. So there is an element of value there that takes us way beyond salespeople, way, way, way beyond salespeople. So the worst contrasting example and analogy that anybody that would make of a real estate agent is calling them a salesperson. It doesn't fit the description. It is not what we do. And I'm not trying to knock salespeople. We need salespeople because sometimes we need help getting off the fence to buy a car. Let's be honest. We need a car, but it's hard to do sometimes. But anyway, that's the analogy. So Jessica, thank you for making that point. And I didn't mean to labor more on that, but it is important to kind of make this correlation, to put in our minds, to bring back to the value that we provide. That goes along with what we're talking about here. Is if we see ourselves as nothing but salespeople, we do not value what we do. We don't value our job, right? But if we see our position as, all these fiduciary responsibilities, that we serve our client well, and we're ultimately helping them wrestle with a very complex situation and navigating it, and in a professional way, we are their advocate, right? We are their helpmate. We are there to help support them through this complex of something they don't do very often, if ever, right? So there you go. Jessica, that was your fault. That money trail was your fault. But I appreciate it. All right. Belief in your value. In real estate, the product is you. The product is you. As clients began trusting me and my business grew, another belief began to strengthen. You are the product. Your expertise is the value. Eventually, that belief led me to build a Rainmaker team. I didn't start that team because I had spare time. Far from it. I started because I believed in the value I could bring to others who wanted to grow. Leading a team taught me that belief in your value does three things. 1, it gives people confidence in your leadership. 2, it allows you to serve at a higher level. And 3, it elevates your capacity to create opportunities, not just for clients, but for other agents. All right. Belief in your value allows you to walk into a listing appointment, a negotiation, or a leadership moment knowing I can guide you, I can help you, I know how to get you to your goals. That level of belief is magnetic. It builds attraction. It inspires trust. And in this industry, trust is everything. I think this is just a great summary of understanding your value and your worth as a real estate agent, right? It's just a great way to kind of summarize that. What is belief in your value? Well, you've got to understand that you're there to guide, you're there to help, and you know exactly how to get them there. And I will say this is why being a student is so important. We are in an industry that changes rapidly. So you need to stay current. You need to be doing things like we're talking about right now. So those that are out there, thank you for being here. And thank you for participating. I love it. I love that you guys are communicating with me in the chat. That makes this fun. And that's the whole purpose of this. I hate just sitting here talking the whole time. So love the engagement. And I hope you're enjoying this. I've been kind of enjoying just this off the cuff conversations and just pulling up articles and talking. It's fun. And I'm hopeful that it's helping you guys. All right. And then finally, she talks about belief in your organization, why brand alignment matters more than ever. It says, my journey from agent to team leader eventually led to my next chapter, brokerage ownership. One thing I learned, you must believe in the company whose name you carry. Because in real estate, your brand becomes an extension of your identity. So it says, when agents align with a company whose mission, culture, and leadership match their own purpose, something powerful happens. Confidence increases, performance rises, retention strengthens, cultural stabilizes, and customers can feel it. Here is something that I will lean in on this. If you are an agent out there, you need to think through this. There is a lot of agents that switch companies and they look at one factor only. They switch companies constantly and they're known as constantly rebranding themselves to all these different companies over one factor. And you know exactly what I'm going to say that factor is. What's the factor, right? It's all about the commissions and the splits and the money. And we're talking about percentages when we start arguing about money, because in our career, you're not switching to a company because of a paycheck. You're switching to a company for a potential of a paycheck, right? So the argument is not really the split as much as it is the opportunity that brokerage offers you. And then that's where these things come into play. Like if this company has a mission, has a culture, has a leadership that match where you want to be, something crazy happens in you and your clients and a community, right? The confidence increases in yourself, in the environment, and with your consumer. Your performance rises, retention strengthens, and culture stabilizes. Those all affect your bottom line. So when we start talking about commission splits and all these type of things, realize that if one company might have a lower split, another one might have a higher split, which one's going to give you more sales if it fits these type of things, right? So now, it does not mean that there's a perfect brokerage out there that does all these things right. This is where grace comes in. You got to have grace. You're dealing with people. The moment you chose to come to that brokerage, it's no longer perfect. Sorry. You're part of the problem just as much as I'm part of the problem, just as much as the next person's part of the problem. We are human, and by nature, we technically are not good. We're selfish, we're greedy, we gossip, we slander, we fall into all kinds of traps constantly. And anybody tells me otherwise, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to me, because I'm guilty of that, and so are you. That's what we are as humans. We do these type of things for selfish gain. It's what we do, disguised as ways of love and servant. But there's a motive behind everything we do. What's the motive? So realize there's no such thing as a perfect brokerage. But here's the difference. A brokerage that realizes they're not perfect and understands what I just said knows that they can constantly be improving and is working towards doing so. And that's what breeds these type of situations. That's where we get with this, right? Makes sense, right? It makes perfect sense. It's so simple. It's difficult to implement, but it makes sense. Gallup research reinforces this. Highly engaged employees, those who believe in their organization, are 14% more productive, responsible for 18% higher profitability, and far less likely to leave. But when belief in the brand disappears, cultural cracks, morale drops, high performers start interviewing elsewhere. Brand alignment isn't about marketing, it's about meaning, it's about mission, it's about identity. And agents today are hungrier than ever for brands that match who they are becoming, not just who they have been. Belief is foundation for every high-performing real estate career. All right, I'm just going to stop there for just a second, talk about this briefly, and then do our final article, and we'll wrap this up so you guys can go out there and do some sledding, those that are in the snowy areas. So, all right. So some actionable items, some thoughts. I mean, I've kind of elaborated a lot just kind of going through this article. So we'll just call these like some sound bites that I'll probably splice up, throw on shorts. So what I would say is I would prioritize very heavily on personal value and self-belief, as far as not getting the touchy-feely stuff, but just understanding that your confidence and owning your expertise, like that you know what you're doing, that confidence going into conversations is ultimately the critical factor in gaining client trust, regardless of any kind of market shift. Period. People want to work with people that are confident and are experts in their field. And being an expert does not mean always having the answer. It's knowing where to go get the answer. So your mindset ultimately matters, your value matters, and your professional confidence matters. Work on those things and you'll see success and you'll gain market share in your market. What I would also say is audit your value proposition. Look through what it is that you're doing that delivers value, yourself and your brokerage. What story do those things align with, right? Like, is the story of the brand and the story of you ultimately the story that you want portrayed through your brand? Is it aligned? Look through that and see if those things align. And then leverage, technology and AI and things to replicate that brand on the logistics side of stuff, but don't lose the humanity. And then what I would definitely start doing is work on some sales skills and some conversational things where you practice articulating your self-worth and your worth as value given back to the client. So start working on preparing, and rehearsing your, what we call, it's a unique, your UVP. So that is your unique value proposition, right? What is unique about you, the value that you propose to deliver to clients? This helps you to easily answer, like, why should I hire you, right? So when you're talking to a buyer or a seller doing an interview, your unique value proposition articulated well as a script, but more natural, is answering that ultimate question that the buyer and sellers always have. Why should I hire you over somebody else, right? Why should I hire you over somebody else? All right. Very good. last article, guys, and we will be wrapping this up, and you guys can get to your day. And I'm gonna start making, some calls and texts. So, all right. This next one is nar.realtor. This is called the 5 C's for making powerful marketing videos. The 5 C's for making powerful marketing videos. Let me know in the comments if you do video on a regular basis or have in the past. Let me know your experience, what your thoughts are, what your difficulties have been trying to get through those. What does that look like? Let me know in the comments if you guys have had any kind of experience with that. I will say this just keeps getting ramped up. More and more people are doing more and more video. And AI is streamlining a lot of the logistical side of video editing and that kind of stuff to make it really good. So there's a lot of new products kind of coming on the market to make this very easy for real estate agents to do. So look into those. But let's go through the 5 C's here. To stand out on social media, you need to consider video marketing. Here are tips to help you get over your fear and get the camera rolling. It's plain and simple. Agents who use video in their social media marketing receive more inquiries, according to Kim Ritberg, an award-winning video marketer and real estate video coach who spoke at NAR NXT, the Realtor Experience, in Houston last month. Quote, just listed and just sold posts aren't enough, she says. You're not just selling homes, you're selling yourself, end quote. What makes video so powerful? Social media algorithms, the formulas that determine what shows up in a user's feed, like video, Ritberg says, quote, if you're posting videos, you're being seen by more people, which will lead to more leads and more clients, end quote, she says, citing an agent who posted a video on YouTube that directly resulted in a 1 million referral. While not every post will lead to a sale, putting yourself out there on video can be instrumental in establishing and increasing your credibility and likability. It can also be rekindled relationships with former clients. Yeah. So here's the thing. It is a personal element that you're able to connect through by doing video. They can see how you articulate. You guys sitting here watching me can see me more in my natural environment, in my comfortable environment, and how I'm more human in this environment than I am when I might be on stage talking or in a public speaking setting, right? It's very different. So get good in front of camera, and then what'll end up happening and being portrayed in that is your authentic self. And people are craving that authenticity right now, especially in a market of AI and everything else that's gone crazy. Jessica, she says, I'm trying, but it's so hard. I'm literally like a deer in headlights when the video starts. Yes, I get it. That is part of the process, Jessica. And here's a tip that I would say. What you can do is a lot of times having just a standard location where you do this at every single time, that just is your same environment, that you know that when I go in, that's where it's set up, that's where I do it at, diffuses some of those nerves. But really, it comes down to push and record and being okay with not saying anything for a while. Like just stare at the screen, kind of look at things. All that's editable later. Not going live, but like just start your video recording, and then why not do some practice shots? Go ahead and talk into the camera, kind of work through what you're saying, and just let the recording go. Don't worry about the record button, anything like that. Just who cares? Push the record button, just set it there in your environment, and just start talking to the camera. Just start talking to it. Just practice talking to it. And then when you feel like you're kind of ready, you can begin kind of talking through your script and working through it all, right? So just do it naturally. Don't sit there and try to overthink things. Be very, very calm and just embrace that the video is on, and realizing you can edit all of that later. Everything is editable later. So you don't have to like worry about getting it right the first time. And remember, they want the authenticity. They don't want the fake scripted dialogue. That's not what they crave. They really want the mistakes, the the awkwardness that comes along with being on video. They want to see you. They truly want to see you. And a lot of people freak out about how they sound. Guess what? It's the way you sound. I mean, you might not like it, but that's the way everybody hears you. Like hearing myself right now, I don't like the way I sound on voice, but guess what? You guys will all agree. Do I sound like myself? See, I don't know I sound like that, but I do now. So get over that. And if people like the authenticity. They want to see that. So embrace it. Just enjoy doing video. It doesn't need to be overthought at all. So get out there and record, Jess. Just do it. And you'll get better as you do it. It just gets easier and easier. What makes video so powerful? Social media algorithms, the formulas that determine what shows up in a user's feed like video, Ripper says. If you're posting videos, you're being seen by more people, which will lead to more leads and more clients, end quote. She says, citing an agent who posted a video on YouTube that directly resulted in a $1 million referral. All right, so I already read that one, but anyway, that's amazing. All right, don't overthink it. We just kind of talked about that. Despite its marketing power, Ritberg acknowledges that many agents don't use video, in part because they think it's time consuming, struggle to come up with ideas, or find the technology confusing. The most often cited reason, according to Ritberg, is that they are self conscious and believe they don't look or sound good on camera. That's so true. That's what I was just talking about. Most people feel like they don't want to look that way. They sound, they don't like the way they sound. All those things is what people see anyway. My dog is going crazy. We're gonna let her stop for just a second. That's the nature. See, this is hilarious. So this is exactly my point, right? This is the beautiful thing about life. Noises like that is just everyday life. Will I edit that out? The dog barking, if you could hear it, I won't edit it. That's part of it. We're talking about video and we're just talking about the dog barking, and that's gonna stay in the video. That's part of it. Just let it go. Ritberg advises agents to stop overthinking it and just do it, stressing the importance of authenticity and relatability. That's when the magic happens. There you go. All right, follow the 5 C's of video. Here's the advice of the 5 C's. Number 1, confidence. Quote, to get past your fear of video, you need to understand what's holding you back, end quote. She encourages agents to stop thinking about being on camera as if they were a supermodel, being judged by their looks, and instead to think of themselves as teachers with a message that people care about. Also, calm your body before recording. Ritberg suggests a simple speaker warm-up known as a SSS. Stretch, smile, and soothe. Breathe in and out right before you go on camera. That's good advice. Stretch, kind of limber up the jaws. My daughter, she likes to practice singing. She goes into the closet and she'll belt out all kinds of weird things. She's practicing all this kind of stuff. It sounds funny. But then she starts practicing, right? She starts singing. It's beautiful and it sounds great. And it kind of comes out. But she practices and warms up and she just gets comfortable in her voice, right? Same kind of thing when you're going on camera. Just get used to it. Stretch out, soothe, get ready. Just breathe in, breathe out, relax, those type of things. And to be honest, that's why I go back. Like, let the record happen. Just let it record. You can delete it out later. Just don't worry about hitting that button constantly. A program I would recommend that helps do that on your phone is CapCut. If you know about CapCut, it's a very easy video editing software, and it has a lot of automations built into it that helps you do those type of things. So I might do a tutorial on that sometime. Credibility. Number 2, credibility. People need to believe you're credible. For newer agents, there are many ways to demonstrate credibility beyond years in the business. Use video to communicate industry ranking, sales data, and client testimonials. Ritberg suggests telling a story, such as how you got a win for a client or prepared a home for sale in 2 weeks. Quote, use AI to highlight your human intelligence, end quote. It can help you create your video story, but make sure it sounds like you. Talk only about what you know and be sure your facts are accurate before recording, as lost credibility will harm your business. Credibility, yeah. 2 things there, right? Like, yes, you are delivering something that is credible, something that they can relate to. You got to make sure that it's true, but then it makes you look like a normal human that they can connect with by doing video. So really what they're describing here is kind of what I'm trying to do here. I'm not trying to put on a show as much as I want to connect and help. And I want to encourage you guys to do likewise, to see that it doesn't have to be complicated at all. There can be mistakes, there can be errors, there can be mess ups, and there will be. As I continue to do these type of streams, there's going to be all kinds of weird things that happen. And if you guys keep coming back, you're going to see a lot of these things and you can laugh at me as I do them. So, because I'm going to let them happen. All right. Connection. Strive to replicate your real world network online. Start sharing a bit about your personal life, such as hobbies or pets, to encourage others to engage with you. And clarity. Keep videos short. 1 video, 1 message, advises Ritberg. If you have a lot to say, cut a longer video into a series of shorter videos. Videos under a minute get the most engagement. Before posting a video, Ritberg recommends asking yourself if you're a grandmother and your 7-year-old neighbor will understand it. She also stresses the importance of the hook. For engagement, catchy, specific information to draw the viewer in. The hook should be in the first 3 seconds of the video. So they're giving practical advice here. Consistency is the last one. Consistency is more important than quantity. Ritberg suggests starting with 2 to 4 posts per week and building from there. Most importantly, Ritberg says, don't give up. Don't give up. All right. We kind of, as I was going through this article, obviously I was stopping to give it some advice here and there. I'm just going to summarize this real quick for some sound bites, right? So, what would I say in regards to getting really good at video? Going back to these 5 C's, the first one was clarity. You know, I think she brought it into perspective at the very end there. Keeping videos under 60 seconds. Focus on one topic, one video, one message idea, right? You know, it's a perfect, compelling, short form video that people are going to click on, digest, and immediately just like, comment, and engage with it, and then move on. But another thing she mentioned at the very end there, as far as clarity goes, to be able to get them to hook, you got to get that hook in there, like something that's going to trigger them to keep watching that video. So clarity on what the video is, make it short, give it a quick little hook, and then they'll engage with that video. This is all opposite about what I'm doing right now. Very often, this is like long form live stream video. But what do I do afterwards? I will do this very thing. I'll go back and I'm going to look through this video. And there's a program that I use. It's going to splice this all up and make shorts for me and add subtitles and all that kind of stuff. And it's going to put these little sound bites back out there. So that's how this works. Confidence and connection is the next one she kind of mentioned. Those are the two that I'm going to bring together. So what I would say is overcome any kind of camera shyness by viewing yourself as who you are, right? I'm a teacher. I'm help. I understand what I'm talking about. I'm going to share briefly, some personal details and hobbies, pets, whatever. But then I'm going to build that quick rapport, and then I'm going to build that, and then I'm going to lean into teaching moments and give them practical information for value that I'm confident about delivering, all at the same time trying to talk to the camera as I'm talking to a person, right? I'm going to have that connection, and I'm going to have confidence along with it. And then the other one, this is not in particular order. I'm just going back through as I look through the news article here. Credibility. Credibility is really telling your story with truth in it. Like, I want to tell my story. I don't want to embellish it. I want to say it truthfully. I want to give you a big win that maybe I had in my life, but I want it to be the truth, because if I'm saying it truthfully, it will be delivered and perceived as if this is true, right? It's not just a story I've made up, it's true. And at the same time, if I'm sharing data or I'm talking about information, any of those type of things, I want to make sure that what it is I'm talking about is credible and it's truthful, and that it's data that they can also find for themselves, so that I can point them in the direction to find that information. And finally, the consistency factor. What is more important than consistency, or what's more important than quantity, is consistency, right? Like, I want to be consistent on my delivery. I don't want to just throw out a bunch of information that violates all these other C's that we're talking about. But at the same time, I still need to be consistent. So I'm going to do all these other 4 C's while I'm also doing this final C of consistency, right? Not just trying to throw out a bunch of videos just to make videos and try to beat algorithms and play the algorithm game. Who cares, right? We're not trying to build, an influencer platform. I don't care about that at all, right? The whole point is delivering things that is these other 4 C's in a consistent manner. So I don't want to negate these other 4 C's just because I want to, throw out a bunch of videos, right? All right, there we go. Helpful? Hopefully I hit those helpful C's there that she laid out. I think that was a really good article. I hope you guys have found some value in all of this. I hope you guys are heading into just a great weekend. For those that are in the Sun Belt, or the Snow Belt, the Snow Belt, not the Sun Belt. Sun might come out later, but those that are in the Snow Belt, enjoy some coffee, hot chocolate, and some sledding. And also enjoy a weekend with your family. I encourage you to find some time to rest, spend time with your family over the weekend. I understand you're real estate agents, and a lot of times you got to work on the weekends. I get it. But do try to set some time aside to refresh, renew, and get ready for the work week coming up next week. We're getting closer to Christmas. Hopefully you guys are getting ready for that. I'm still working on that. Time is a big factor, right? I'm definitely a procrastinator when it comes to gift buying and getting ready for Christmas. It just always sneaks up on me. Anybody else like that? So, well, guys, excellent. I do appreciate you guys being here. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you next week. I am thinking, so far I've been doing this today. Obviously, I'm way later because it's a snow day and I had time. But I do plan on doing these Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and then Thursdays at 8:30. Just because they're very simple to me to throw together. It's part of my everyday work startup. Is I go through news for about an hour. So I'm coming on here just doing with that for about an hour. So I'm just going to plan on doing that. It's working pretty well into my workflow on an everyday basis. That I hope that you guys are finding some value in this. And just so you know, too, this is a live stream, but it does stay up on site. So you guys can go back and watch that at any point. It's up there. So you can go back and jump around. Typically, what happens is YouTube processes this live stream, and then the next day we can go in and add chapter markers and that kind of stuff. So you can jump to the content by going to the chapter markers instead of having to just watch the whole video. So maybe there's something we said in here or something somebody brought up. You can jump to that particular segment in this live stream and watch it from there. So hopefully you guys have found this helpful. There you go. Obviously, I got to say it. It's YouTube, right? Subscribe, like, and comment, and ring that bell for me. I do appreciate it. If you're on Twitch, follow me. Do appreciate it there. That's a new platform. Never used that. And Rumble. If you're watching on Rumble, consider following me. I hope you get some kind of value out of this. It's helpful. Follow me there as well. Guys, I appreciate you guys greatly. Have an amazing weekend with your family. And if you got to work, I get it. But we'll see you next time. Have a good weekend. Take care.